Okay, guys, plan today is to give you a quick video that just describes the essay prompts and talk about maybe some things that you could start thinking about in terms of what you're going to have to do eventually before we get to the deadline. So if I look at our calendar, the essay is due April 23rd, which is a Thursday. We're going to try to do like a peer editing share thing on Monday the 20th. But in the meantime, we're going to have a couple of weeks of reading and processing. And so I wanted you to start thinking at least, eventually what you're going to have to be doing. So I posted the essay prompt for you on Friday's date, Friday, April 3rd. So if I open that assignment up, I can see the prompt itself, and we'll just kind of walk through this. A couple of quotes from the text, and I put the page number so you can find them if you want to get some of the surrounding text. First one says, the history of the American Negro is the history of strife, this longing to attain self-conscious manhood, to merge his double self into a better and truer self. So this was one of the quotes we talked about in chapter 1 related to double consciousness, and the idea that there's that I'm African and American, and I'm not really one or the other. I'm kind of both. That whole concept that he's struggling with. Second quote from page 14: work, culture, liberty, all these we need, not singly but together, not successively but together, each growing and aiding each, and all striving toward that vaster ideal that swims before the Negro people, the ideal of human brotherhood, the ideal of fostering and developing the traits of the Negro in large conformity to the greater ideals of the American Republic. That's part of a longer section, but that's really where we kind of clued into some of the big ideas that Du Bois is talking about. And you noticed on the reading guide, work, culture, and liberty are kind of the three areas that you're looking for quotes, right? And then our third quote that kind of guided our essay prompt from page 15, it's at the very end of chapter 1, that men may listen to the striving in the souls of Black folk. And that's really where the title of the book comes from. The word strive means to make great efforts to achieve or obtain something, struggle or fight vigorously. So the striving that he's talking about is definitely related to this double consciousness and the strife that people are dealing with in the United States related to race, because he says the problem of the 20th century is the color line. And so he breaks it down into categories: work, culture, and liberty. We said work has to do with how people are making a living. And that's where you can get into sharecropping, and that's where you can get into the kinds of training that people have. You can get into all kinds of things. Culture, we said primarily he is talking quite a bit about education in this book, and the idea of higher education, but he's also he gets into religion in certain sections. He talks about music. He talks about other things that could fit under culture. And then liberty. Yesterday in chapter 2 and 3, we talked about liberty showing up already pretty squarely when he talks about voting rights. He talks about equal civil rights, being treated equally under the law. So that those themes will come up again and again throughout the book. So that's our focus. As we're moving forward, the prompt itself says, how does Du Bois define the striving in the souls of Black folk in the second half of the 19th century related to work, culture, and liberty? So when he's talking about that struggle that African American people are engaged in, how does he think about the struggle in terms of work? How does he think about the struggle in terms of culture and also in terms of liberty? What were the supports to this striving? So what things helped African Americans as they're doing this struggle? And what were the obstacles? What were the things in their way? And what is the significance of the striving in the souls of Black folk? Kind of repeating the same thing over and over here. So as you're reading, you are looking for evidence and quotes to support your thinking. Basically, we're asking you, what is Du Bois arguing? And can you tell me what his key arguments are? And then can you support it with quotes from the text to kind of support what you're thinking here? This paper should be, I think, pretty straightforward if you're reading the book, if you're tuning into the Zoom meeting so that you can kind of process this information. If you're not able to be at all the meetings, I'm trying to make recordings of these so that you can see them. I posted yesterday's meeting in the weekly directions next to Thursday. So the one on Tuesday didn't record. We had some technical glitches. And we talked about chapter 1. You basically missed our conversation about double consciousness and then this big quote on page 14. So if you reread those and those are kind of making sense, I think you should be okay. Here's the rubric for the paper. Idea development is really, are you understanding what it is that Du Bois is talking about? Can you communicate that to me? Your thesis should be clearly identifying what it is that you think Du Bois is arguing, right? And then you're going to develop that thesis by giving me examples and references throughout the text. I'm looking for clear organization, so you should have transitions. The one place that sometimes causes people trouble is citations. Everything in the book really, or all of the citations in your paper should be coming right out of Du Bois's book. You shouldn't really have to go into any other sources for this. So what I would see is just after you reference a quote, if you use a direct quote, you would give me a page number in parentheses. Or if you are even referring to something he talked about with a paraphrase, same thing. You should be citing where you're getting that information. So I should track, where in the book you pulled this information from. As usual, this is academic writing, so we want to make sure that those citations look right and that they're being done regularly, and that all the kind of mechanical parts of writing, punctuation, spelling, capitalization, and all of that is edited correctly. So that's enough for now. Start thinking about, even after reading the first 3 chapters, you are starting to see how he's breaking these ideas down and how he is kind of putting together this argument as far as his big ideas related to race. So take good notes on the reading guide, and as we go, we will continue to kind of pull back to this question, and I'm going to be here to try to make sure that you're getting good information. Work on your blog, and have a good weekend.